Welcome to the Mindset Architect Podcast, where it's all about creating the life you want, the business you want, and making a real difference. Join us in unlocking the code to true success. And now your host, Tony Caliendo, Master Coach with Rethink Coaching.
Welcome to the Mindset Architect Podcast, episode 133. I'm Tony Caliendo, Executive Coach here at Rethink Coaching. And as always, I want to thank you for sharing your time with me. Time truly is our greatest asset. And the fact that you're willing to share your time with me today truly does mean a great deal. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This week's episode is about habits and how habits can hijack your vision. I know for myself, for a long time, I struggled with having a really clear vision, getting really excited about where I saw myself, my business, my life, my family headed. And then slowly, that gradually and suddenly thing, I would find myself not moving towards that vision any longer. And it was as if it became numb or somebody just dimmed the light on that vision. And it wasn't until a conversation I had with my coach many years ago that I was the one dimming my own light, dimming my own direction towards that vision that I was so excited about. And it happens because of habits and old habits that we have that show up even when we consciously know they're not the right habits to get us to goals. That's what I want to talk about with you today. It's very real. And I believe a lot of us experience this on the regular. And I want to make you aware of it because once we're aware of it, we can actually do something with it. We're going to start with that. Just think about this. Most of our life is on autopilot. But to think about the basics, right? Waking up, brushing our teeth, getting dressed, going to the gym, doing the things that we do on the regular, which are habits, is really how our life is lived. And it happens mostly on an unconscious level. I mean, I know when it's time to go brush my teeth. I know when it's time to go take a shower. I know when it's time to go to the yoga studio. I know when it's time to do the things that I do. And the truth of it is, over 90% of how we live our lives and what we do on the daily is a result of conditioned habitual behaviors. And we've talked about this before, yet I want you to hear this again. Over 90% of what we do is conditioned habitual behavior. We don't necessarily think about it, right? And it's not just good habits, it's all habits. So over 90% of what we end up doing on the daily is based upon old habits or patterns. And I think about like patterns and habits as being really ingrained in our brain in the neuroscience pathway, that when this happens, we do this. When it's this time we do this. It's just that pathway that we follow that builds really strong habits. Notice that I didn't say that it's productive, functional, healthy. They're just habits, good and bad, both. So we have to pay attention. And when you don't realize this is happening, it's not that we're doing it intentionally. It's not that it's a conscious decision we're making. It's just habit. Your brain is truly designed to automate behavior so that it can conserve energy. It's one of the functions of the brain that happens to us on an unconscious level. It wants to conserve energy for other things. And that means it sets up routines for us. It handles our reactions in a certain way. Our decision patterns are based upon old habits. And our productivity habits, our emotional responses, all of that happens based upon old habits because it's automated behavior. And automated behavior reduces the energy used by your brain. And that's one of the functions of your brain, is to conserve that energy. I always find it interesting is that people can have a really clear vision. Like, I love talking to people that are crystal clear on their vision, yet they're still producing results that look nothing like the vision that they've created. I always say, when audio and video don't match, we know we have a opportunity or a problem. And this is what happens when we have this clear vision, yet our behaviors and habits are here and our vision is here. and we are not following it. It just is how things happen for us. Know this, that your vision lives in your conscious mind. Like, I know my vision crystal clear. It's very conscious. I don't have to work hard to extract it because I live my vision every day. Yet your habits live in your subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind almost always wins. So what does that tell you? If you want a different result, we have to work on the habits because they live in our subconscious. Our vision is very clear, and yet our habits live in that subconscious part. And in order to get a different result, we're going to have to tap into that part of our brain to make some changes just so that you can bring that vision or those goals to life. That's what it's all about. The number two thing for you to consider is that vision alone is not enough. A lot of people think, hey, I've created this vision, right? I think about visions, business plans, mission statements, vision statements, all of that, right? I've got clarity around that. And just because I have clarity around it, my mind's going to know exactly what to do. And while clarity is super, super powerful, clarity without behavioral alignment is just inspiration. I'm going to say that again because it's really important that clarity without behavioral alignment is just inspiration. This is where we get stuck. We get stuck so much of the time. We can hear ourselves saying it, gosh, I know what I should be doing and I'm just not doing it. Can't tell you the number of times I've talked to a client or prospective client who knows what to do. They're just not doing it. And it's because they're defaulting to old habits. So knowing what you should be doing is not doing. And the reason's simple. The reason is really simple why we know what to do, yet we don't do it. And that is because when pressure gets built or stress gets built, or we're in an uncomfortable or unfamiliar situation, when your emotions get involved, we default to conditioned behaviors. We default to those habits. We don't default to our aspirations. And it's why our vision can just sometimes become a pipe dream. Like, oh, that was a cute thing to think about, but it didn't happen. I want to connect a couple dots for you. All right. So when things are stressful, when things get difficult, when we're doing something that's uncomfortable, or the emotion part is brought in, which causes your brain to go to conditioned habitual behavior because it's familiar. It's going to reduce the energy it needs to spend. Your brain, remember we've talked about this, there's that little primitive part of your brain that wants to protect you from failure, from danger. Your brain's going to seduce you into going back to those old habits because it's safe. It knows the outcomes. It knows that you're not going to get harmed. And one of its main functions for us is to keep us out of harm's way. And that's typically when we default to old habits, is when things get uncomfortable or we have some emotion around it. Really, really important to just acknowledge it's a function of the brain. And we're here today to talk about what you can do to be in a little bit more control of that. Don't let your vision become a pipe dream. Keep it alive, keep it really clear, and know that you can get to achieve it. The number three thing, and I want to really talk about this, is stress does activate your old patterns. When things are calm or we're in a space of, flow, if you will, when life gets calm, we can operate with intention because our brain's not looking to protect us. Our brain's not looking for the quickest way to safety. Things are calm. You can look at things differently. You can operate out of intention. That's really, really big. Yet when life gets busy, emotional, uncertain, our nervous system looks for efficiency. That's that trigger that's going to pull us into familiar behaviors. It's really what it's doing. And when your brain pulls you back to the patterns that you've repeated the most, just know that they're maybe not the ones that you just decided to start. Rarely for us to get to a different vision, for us to get to a different goal, are we going to do the same behaviors or habits. Yet that's where your brain's going to pull you and let you repeat those over and over because they're very familiar. They're not necessarily the ones that you need to move you to this new goal, to this new vision, to having more powerful relationships with people in your life. What it might look like, and this is just to help you kind of connect the dot where you might be experiencing where stress pulls you into old behaviors or patterns, is if you're avoiding having difficult conversations. If you're procrastinating on doing the important work, you know what needs to be done, yet you put it off and put it off and put it off. You're procrastinating doing it. Saying yes to something when you know you should be saying no. That's a big one. Overcommitting. We tend to do that when we're looking for efficient ways to handle things. And I know that sounds crazy, yet it's because it's familiar. So if we say yes to a lot of familiar things, the brain's going to feel more calm. Now, it seems strange to overcommit can create calm, yet it can because you're overcommitting to things that you're very, very familiar with. You might find yourself filling your time with noise instead of meaningful progress. These are conditional survival patterns. I want you to acknowledge that and show yourself a little bit of grace that when stress gets activated, you're more likely to be in your old behaviors, habits, and patterns. And if we're really honest, we face stress every single day. I don't think the majority of us go through a day without having or experiencing some type of stressful moment, stressful experience, stressful thoughts. We are human beings. Stress is just a big part of our life. And so it can be the catalyst that pulls you into moving away from your vision and back to doing what's comfortable. Is it a bad thing? I don't think it's a horrible thing, yet it's certainly not going to help us move towards what we want to move towards. I think about a lot. I think I've thought about this a lot, and I've had to really question some of my habitual behaviors that I found myself sliding back into just because I haven't paid attention to them. I think I shared on a couple podcasts ago. My phone was running low on battery, and I was like, "Yeah, it's probably going to, die before I go to bed." And I made a decision, and I'm not sure why. I think on an unconscious level, I do. I'm not sure why, but I made a decision. It was about 6 o'clock in the evening. We're getting ready to have dinner. And I thought, I'm just going to go plug my phone in my office. Now, my phone is normally plugged in on my nightstand where the majority of us keep our phones. For me, I've kept it there for a while. I kept it there for a long time because my parents were aging and ill, and I didn't live in Omaha. And I always wanted to make sure that if something happened, my family could get a hold of me. Old habit. Old habit. Both of my parents sadly have passed. And there's really not a need for me to keep the phone there by my bedside any longer for that reason. So that evening, I plugged my phone into my office. What I ended up experiencing that night was I was in a better headspace with being able to concentrate on the conversations I was having with Reagan. I was able to pay attention to what we were watching on TV that night, whatever it was. I was able to connect to it and I wasn't distracted. And I can't tell you the number of time I reached for my phone that wasn't sitting next to me. I left my phone in the office that night. I did not take it to my nightstand, and I started a new habit. Yet, not long ago, I found myself waking up in the morning and there it was right next to me. I slid into an old habit without even being really aware that I was doing it because it felt comfortable. And I noticed in the morning, I was getting out of bed, unplugging my phone, grabbing my glasses, and moving out into the world of my living room with my phone attached to me. Old habit that wasn't serving me, moving me towards my vision. I know there's a better pattern for me or a better structure for me in the morning than having my phone with me. So old habits can creep in, stressful or just because it feels normal. You don't even think about it, right? You kind of go into that autopilot thing. I know we've all done it before where we're just doing something out of habit, but that's one example of a habit that wasn't serving me. That is one example of a habit that wasn't fueling my new vision. It worked for the old version of me. It was not working for the new version of me. My mornings start off very structured. And when I deviate from that structure, it impacts my entire day. That old habit, as simple as it might sound, of putting my phone on my nightstand was interrupting my vision. Remember, Vision is in the conscious. Our habits are in the unconscious, and the unconscious or subconscious typically wins out. So what do we do, right? Okay, now great. I know I've got habits that aren't serving me. What the heck do I do? First step is awareness. Sounds really basic and simple, yet it's true. Awareness is the first pattern breaker. And I would like to think that this episode is creating awareness for you that you've got habits that are not serving you. You can't change a pattern that you don't see, right? This is where awareness is really, really important. For me, I realized, sadly, I'll admit it was probably a week or two before I realized that I had slipped into an old habit. But once I became aware of it, I could do something with it. So it's not just about creating more discipline. All right. So it wasn't about like, okay, don't look at your phone, just leave it alone. It really is about recognizing the pattern. And the pattern was putting my phone on the nightstand. Simple, simple thing has a tremendous impact. So if we, apply discipline to unexamined patterns, we often fail. We have to recognize what is the pattern that's not really serving us. So a better starting point is to really ask yourself a question. What behavior keeps showing up or behaviors keep showing up that are quietly working against my goals or my vision? This is a really simple yet extremely powerful question. What behavior or behaviors keep showing up that are working against my goals? Simple thing of iPhone on nightstand was a behavior that was working against my goal. Until I became aware of it, I wasn't really going to fix it through discipline. I had to acknowledge that it was a pattern or behavior. So that behavior led me to checking emails. It led me to checking Instagram, checking my socials to see what the heck happened overnight while I was sleeping, because it was so important. And I say that sarcastically, none of that had anything to do with my vision. None of it. It was just an old habit that popped back up. Become aware of the behaviors that are pulling you out of your path to your vision or your goals. That's the easiest way that we're going to fix these behaviors and habits. And we're going to be able to form new habits is by becoming aware of the ones that we have to remove. It's in alignment with the framework of less over more, right? I have to remove the wrong more. My phone on the nightstand is a wrong more. Moving it to my office where it sits on a shelf and I don't see it, feel it, hear it, feel it buzzing, whatever, is really what serves me. That's the new habit that I must develop. Because the discipline of not looking at it in the morning doesn't work so well because it was there. Yet if I develop a new habit of moving it and leaving it, that's a new behavior, I've got a greater chance of keeping my vision in front of me and moving towards it without the distraction. The other thing that you can do is you can design interruptions to break a habit loop. And this is sometimes what we have to do because I will tell you, and this is no criticism of smartphones. They have been a great blessing in our lives to stay very connected. Yet for me, I had to come up with interruptions to break the habit of looking at it, constantly looking at it and checking things that really didn't matter. Habits continue because they allow you to follow a predictable cycle. So I want you to think about that. If we're going to interrupt and break a habit loop, you just need to be aware of why you're doing it. What you're doing is it's a predictable cycle. There's a trigger, a behavior, and a reward. That's what's happening in a habit loop, right? There's a trigger, I have a behavior, there's a reward. I wake up, I grab my phone. The reward is checking my emails. The reward is connecting on social media. The reward is distracting me from what's really important of moving me towards that vision. Meditation, prayer, journaling. It's delaying all of that. That was the habit loop that I had to break with the silly smartphone in the morning. So if you want to change the behavior, you got to interrupt the pattern. For me, moving the phone, getting it out of my bedroom. I'm considering a new habit of moving it to a different part of the house. And this may sound really ridiculous to some, yet I do my journaling and my meditation in my office. And when I walk in, I know the phone is on my back credenza. So there's a possibility that I'm going to find a new location in the house to put the phone that is not anywhere where I will be in the morning because I want to break that habit loop. If I'm journaling and I hear a buzz on my phone, it pulls me out of it. If I hear a notification, whatever it is, or if I think I heard it, it can pull me out of it. So this is a habit loop that is not serving me. So changing my morning routine is one way that I'm going to break that loop. Another way to break a habit loop that's not serving you is scheduling thinking time. And we've talked about this. White space in your calendar is really important. Having strategic thinking time helps you break some of those old habit loops where you're just going through the day without realizing the behaviors that you're executing on. Removing distractions from your environment. Hello, that's my smartphone. That was one of the things that I'm working on. And I believe my next step is putting it in our den where I don't go in the mornings. Blocking time for your highest work value. This is really important. I know that we follow a schedule and we have calendar, yet it's really important that we look at what is my highest value, what is my highest dollar per hour activity that I must be doing today, and becoming really clear on what that is. Small little structural changes create behavioral friction that forces your brain to wake up. It forces your brain not to fall into old habits. It brings it to a space of being aware and awake and committed to moving you towards that new goal or that new vision. You stop operating on autopilot. So those small little changes create behavioral friction, which is what you need to do to wake up your brain. I love this. It's so incredibly simple to wake up our brain. It's just by changing a behavior or habit. It's that simple. For me, moving my smartphone into a different room is creating behavioral friction. I don't have access to it. I would have to intentionally go find it. So it's waking up my brain in a different way that prevents me from sliding back into those old habits. The last thing I want to talk about is building identity habits, not just productivity habits. All right. So there's a difference. A lot of us will try to change our habits by focusing on a task. I want you to think about how can we do this to have lasting change? And lasting change will happen for you when you focus on identity, not just the task. So instead of saying, you know what, I need to work harder, right? That's focusing on a task. What if you asked yourself, who do I need to become for this vision to be inevitable? Who do I need to become for my vision, my goals, my direction to be inevitable, non-negotiable? It will happen when I show up in this matter. A focused leader behaves differently. A disciplined entrepreneur schedules differently. A high performer protects their time differently. Your future isn't built by occasional motivation or discipline. It's built by small, repeated behaviors that reinforce who you are becoming. This is one of the greatest, simplest gifts that I want to give you, is to create an awareness of the old habits or behaviors that you slide into that you don't even realize you're doing that are sabotaging your future vision. We have to become aware of these in order to change. Your vision does not become a reality just because you want it to, right? We can't just state our vision and manifest it's going to happen. It becomes your reality when your habits begin to support it. This is really important. If you want a different outcome, you're going to need different habits and behaviors. You just are. You're not going to get to somewhere different by doing the same thing. We've got to change. So the real question is not, what do I want? All right, I want you to consider this, right? The real question is, what patterns in my life are quietly deciding my future? Really important. That's what's happening. And that's why your future is what it is. It's because of your old patterns and habits. So ask yourself the really powerful question, what patterns in my life are quietly deciding my future? Because once you see them, you can actually change them. This is Really, really important for those of you who are committed to your new vision, your new goals in your business and your life. This is really, really important that you become aware of the patterns and habits that you're actually doing versus the patterns and habits that will bring you to your future. We are just creatures of habit. How many times have you heard that? And we tend to do the same things over and over. I mean, I know people who eat the same lunch every day. I know people who drive the same way to work every day. I know people who wear the same color shirt every day so they don't have to make a decision. Those are habits and behaviors. We have to analyze those to make sure that those are moving us into the right direction. I think about this. If you want to show up differently, like you want to play in a luxury or you want to be in a higher end market or in a different grouping of entrepreneurs or executives, and I am showing up in my old uniform, that's an old habit. That's an old behavior that might be dictating my future. When simply changing an outfit or appearance it can create the space for that new future. Pay attention, find out what those patterns are. Really, really important for you, because once you find those old patterns and habits, you can actually make the changes you need to live the life that you intend to live. All right, team, as always, thank you for being here. If you have any questions about this or anything else, please feel free to reach out to me. You know how to get a hold of me. Pretty easy to find on all the social media outlets. And if you just Google me, Tony at rethinkcoaching.com, simplest way to get a hold of me. Go make it a great week. Pay attention to those habits and behaviors. Talk to you soon. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you must come check out the Mindset Architect Group Coaching Program. It's our monthly program where we explore the power of your mindset, help you identify what you truly want in business and life, and then help you reach those goals. Come check us out at rethinkcoaching.com/group-program. That's rethinkcoaching.com/group-program. We'll see you there.